What is up, everybody? It's your boy, Whiskey Mo, aka Morgan Houston. We got a great one here. There's a lot of changes that are happening within the Air Force Special Warfare pipeline across all four career fields. So we had the fortune to have Aaron Love on again to answer a lot of the questions that he has been getting, ones Ready has been getting, as well as some of the things that he is getting from his connections within the community. I hope you guys enjoy. You will hear a couple of people say, "Hey, Whiskey, your audio is crap." It was a Discord issue. My audio throughout this is going to be good, but yeah, I couldn't get it figured out. But yeah, I hope you enjoy. There's a lot of good questions. If you have more questions, come join us on the Discord. I'll put a link in the thing below. There you can chat with us. I also wrote a thing on a website. I will post my thoughts as well in the thing below. Hope you guys stick around. Ask questions below. Get in the comments. Discuss what you think. And here it is, question and answer, Aaron Love. Well, I'm going to get this announcement going.
Yeah, your audio is kind of wacky, but
man,
thanks, Blackjack. Thanks, Blackjack. Appreciate that.
Man, I don't know why it's doing that. I checked it, and it's supposed to be good.
It sounds not too bad now, but it was kind of like it basically was staticky and sounded kind of crazy.
Yeah, I think when I get a little loud, it's cutting. I gotta fix this thing. So,
you all right? Man, shout out to Brewdog, Elvis AF, grapefruit infused IPA, non-alcoholic, fantastic. Columbus, Ohio.
All right, let's get this going. Pipeline QA. There we go.
I love it. Absolutely love it.
There we go. That's a little bit better. Let's see, maybe.
Bam, there we go.
Take a little minute to.
You crushing it. Crushing it, Playboy.
All right. Oh, good stuff. What's up, everybody? We are going to talk about the potential changes, because everything's not set in stone yet, about the upcoming pipeline. I mean, I know I have thoughts. I also have wishes, but like they're probably never going to come true when it comes to the pipeline, you know? So if you guys got questions, either there's a button up in the upper right-hand corner of your screen, hit that. Or if you're on mobile, it should be at the bottom of your screen. You can come up here and ask us verbally, or you can put it in the chat, and then we can answer it from there. So you got any starting shots there, Aaron, you want to go with?
You know, other than your audio sucks.
I know, dude. I'm sorry.
Yeah, so, man, there's a lot of stuff. What I want to tell you guys is, like, ever since we dropped that first episode, we waited for, like, 6 months, man. So I'll talk really transparently with you guys back here, because I love the Discord, and I think you guys should have information that nobody else has. We were tracking this from the second that it dropped. Literally the second that the very first slide got presented at the Pentagon in like January, like early January, we were tracking that there was going to be some stuff going on. So we basically talked to some of our friends, and they asked us not to come out and talk about it. So I don't want to be the dudes that like hoard information from you guys, because I don't think that's fair. But we literally have like our friends that are, I mean, and again, I'm not saying this to be narcissistic, but we're all old, right? Like, we all just retired. That means our entire peer group are leaders of the career field, right? Like, we're on group chats with the functional managers and shit. Like, it just is what it is, right? Like, that's our peer group. And they asked us straight up, like, one of the people that we trusted, that we have always respected, he's a good dude, he's a fantastic operator, he's doing the best that he can. And he asked us, he was like, "Hey, I know you guys are aware of this. Can you do us a favor and let us talk about it for a little bit before you guys put anything out?" So we were like, okay, yep, gentleman's agreement. We're gonna keep this. That all changed basically in like the last couple months, because this thing has taken a head of steam. I am 99.9% sure this is getting improved. Like, this has too much steam behind it. I think this is a go. I can't speak, whatever. But, ever since we dropped this first episode, people have been asking us to drop it. Like, it was crazy. And we talked about it kind of on the episode. But, man, you would see dudes go to these meetings, and especially, like, when guys went to the rodeo, I am not joking you, probably 15 people pulled me aside. And they were like, "Bro, have you heard about this new pipeline that's coming?" And I was like, man, I'm not gonna betray anybody's confidence. So I was like, yes, I'm tracking the changes. Like people feel some type of way. Since we dropped the episode, like since we went out with that first one, we have been getting pinged relentlessly with updates. So I don't want to aggrandize ourselves, and I don't want us make ourselves seem more important as it is, or than we are. What I'm going to tell you is that lots of people have really big feelings about this. They felt that it wasn't done in a transparent way, and everything that we're tracking, the lack of messaging is coming from Second Air Force and HAF. Like the rumor mill is that this was just sort of planned. Like people were given, there's a difference between an informational brief and a decision brief in the military. When you give a decisional brief, usually there's a long lead up to that brief where people are involved in it and they give their opinion, and there's a lot of back and forth. There's a lot of sausage to be made, so to speak, where people say, hey, I like this idea, I don't like this idea, change this, whatever. Oh, Matt Cables. Damn, I guess I missed the episode. 487, 488. They're live right now, my friend. What's up, Matt? Good seeing you, bro. Yeah, man, but the bottom line is people showed up to informational briefs and they had all these questions. And then there is a personality that was giving the briefs, and I'm not going to throw his name out there, but he was like, no, this is a decision brief. And people left that and they were like, hold on, bro. This was informational. I disagree with the information you put out. This isn't going to work for a number of different reasons. And he was like, tight, that was a decision brief. Like, I'm effectively letting you know right now. So all that to say, dude, we are talking to, no kidding, all of the shot callers on this. Like every single person that is involved in this thing. I'm not going to tell you who it is or where he's working right now, but I used to work with a guy that hit me up after the episode. I hadn't talked to him in like 3 years. He hit me up after the episode. He's like, bro, let's talk. I've been just absolutely peppering him. So I think I have all of your answers. And I'm not going to say that I'm like 100% correct. Like Whiskey was saying, this isn't 100% approved yet, but I'm giving you the real-time updates. I was texting him earlier today, asking about officers, asking about, prep and what's going to happen with the coaches that are down there and how are they going to work watchbacks and all kinds of stuff. So we got everything. If you guys have any questions right now, I can give you what I think to be is the most up-to-date, real-time, accurate information that I can possibly get to you. So just, if you got a question, ask it. If we need to, people like Matt Cables, who we've had on the podcast and he didn't bother watching it, no big deal. He's probably not even subscribed to TOS. But if you guys got questions, I'm just going to do my level best. I'm not going to shame you like I normally do and tell you to go watch the episode or tell you to Google it. You just ask what the deal is and I will let you know.
How about this? What is any info on the future of the Special Tactics Training Squadron?
Man, that's up in the air, right? So it's going to really depend on, especially, I think STTS probably still has a home if they keep dive school out of the pipeline. One of the big updates that we just recently dropped was that ComAFSOC last week penned a letter and basically requested formally that dive comes back in the pipeline for combat controllers, SR, and STO. Now, if that doesn't come back in the pipeline, then that gives STTS training, right? STTS still has a function to take 3 levels, apprentice to 5 level. That's their given task. Now, they haven't necessarily hit that mark a whole lot in the last couple of years, and that's been the big gripe about STTS is, hey, you're supposed to give us 5 levels, and you're giving us like 3 level plus, where they're getting some of this training, especially like water, jumping, employment. Some of those things are harder for the STSs to wrap their head around. Not so much since they got PJs there, because when they started the PJ program, they automatically got a crap ton of jump masters, a crap ton of dudes that were a little bit more experienced inside of the AIE and employment realm. So it's a little bit easier for them to do training, but there were horror stories of the 2-3 STS forever of not like jumping any rams, not upgrading anybody, all doing, not doing any of those things. So it's been a little bit easier, but STTS is supposed to take care of those items. They're there in Florida. They can obviously do all the water stuff. They do include some of those harder to get training items that 5 level combat controllers are supposed to get. So they've been basically given 3 level plus, sometimes all the way up to 5 level, including JTAC. There was a long time where they were just pumping JTACs out of STTS, and then that kind of fell off because of SOTAC slots and whatever else, and they kind of pushed that to the units a little while ago. As far as the future, man, they own too much space. It's got too much. You know what plot armor is? Like in a book, like somebody's got too much plot armor on them. That way they can't possibly die. You know, before what's the dude that wrote Song of Fire and Ice? Before he George whoever, before he came out, like if there was plot armor around a character, you knew that character was going to stay around, right? STTS at this point is too entrenched. It's got too much plot armor, really, for them to just close it, because there's going to be needs that they've pushed down the road. Now, if they put dive school back in the pipeline, and that's a 3-level requirement, then there's no need. STTS basically is built around the pre-dive course, because that's where you would go as a 3-level. You get out of CCS, and you weren't going to dive school in the pipeline as a controller. You weren't getting it. You're still in the pipeline, but you weren't getting it before CCS. Free fall and dive school, at least historically, were always handled by STTS. They had, and that's where the pre-dive program basically came from. They basically took all the stuff from Indoc, made pre-dive over to STTS, and got controllers ready to go to dive school. So it depends really on where that dive school goes. If you're handling that inside the pipeline, STS or STTS is going to have some questions to answer. And it's going to be like, hey, what would you say you guys do here? Because if they're not doing JTAC and they're not getting guys to dive school, then why do you have a whole school sucking up time, resources, equipment, manpower to do this thing that they're essentially getting in a year inside the pipeline?
I mean, they could possibly run another version of like the Zulu course, or is that, I think that's what you said they were calling it, you know, something after everyone gets together. Cause I know, you know, TACPs, when they hop over to FSOC, you know, we have to go through something at STTS anyways. So there's that as well. Unless this whole change shifts that as well, you know, which is a question that probably, I don't even know if anyone has thought of it yet.
Yeah. Yeah. You ready for this next one? The impact on cross trainees?
Go for it.
Yeah, so cross trainees really largely unchanged. I don't think a whole lot is going to change for the cross trainees. What it is going to do is I don't know how they're going to prioritize those dudes getting down into the Zulu course. Like there's going to be a little bit more magic in the mixing of getting those good dudes assigned, because especially at the front end of this pipeline, we said it on the episode. I don't know if you guys are tracking. We're about to have the biggest special warfare BMT class graduate ever in basic training. Like they are about to bring more people in, like between this class, like the June ship date, the August ship date, they're about to have more students at Lackland Air Force Base, JBSA, whatever you want to call it, than ever. Like they, no kidding, crush their recruiting. Like they are going to have crap tons of students down there. So for cross trainees, that's going to affect slots in the career field, because that's where the slots come from, right? Like they have retraining slots that are available after they fill or don't fill all the slots from first term airmen, from those dudes coming in off the street. So I don't know how it's going to affect the numbers for cross training. It's always a critically manned career field, so you got that going for you, because I don't think we're ever going to be able to produce as much no matter what we do to the pipeline. I don't know if we're ever going to produce as many as we're actually slotted for, just because of, you know, recruiting, retention, all that other stuff. I don't know how it's going to affect the cross trainees. I think in the short term, there's going to be probably a pause on retraining packages until they figure out what's going on. I can't say that for sure. That's my assumption. But they're going to have to prioritize getting all those students at JBSA out, because they're paying, like, it's way easier to tell a cross training, hey, hold what you got. We're not going to give you a class date for like 6 months, because we have to get all these people off of JBSA. The big problem down at JBSA right now is, where do you put these folks? Can you house them? Can you feed them? Do we have enough MTLs and MTIs and all these other people that are going to be overseeing these folks? And what is junior team going to look like? Do we have a gym big enough? Those questions are real. And amateurs playing for execution, professionals playing for logistics. And the logistics questions right now are probably the most up in the air for the entire move.
How about any word on the amount of classes for selection?
Your audio is so
I know.
bad.
I'm sorry, man.
It's okay. It just makes me hate you just a little bit.
That's fair.
So what they're planning on doing right now is they're going to try to move the same amount of classes through. So I think there's like 5 classes of SWAS per year. I think that they're going to do that. They can't do any more classes, because even everybody's all focused on, well, it's only a 3-week selection. No, it's a 3-week selection into a 20 weeks common skills course, the Zulu course, and then you hit your shred outs and stuff, that's 23 weeks and not 10 weeks of people being on JBSA before they get out of those rooms and start PCS and whatever else. And it was, you saw the real uptick when they started MP3 for the PJs and they started housing those dudes on there. Rooms became real hard to come by because instead of those 200 students living at Kirtland went down to senior team, junior team, and then the guys that are waiting for one of those next apprentice courses, their student load down at Kirtland went way down, but the student load at JBSA went way up. Well, now you're talking about that times 4. You're talking about that for CCT, PJ, TACP, SR, and then the stows and crows that you're flowing down to JBSA for their courses that are coming up. So I don't think they're going to be able to run any more classes than that because it's a long tail. Everybody looks at the prior selection model and they're like, oh, it's only 3-week selection model. No, it's 3 weeks plus the Zulu course. You're still going to be able to fail out of the Zulu course, both for performance. You can quit. You can not get, it's not that you won't be selected, but you're still in an AETC training course. There is going to be attrition out of the Zulu course. I just don't know what that looks like. There's going to be disciplinary issues. There's going to be people that decide they don't want to do this. You know, the people that quit in week 6 of a 10-week selection course, whatever that looks like, there's still going to be week 6 in the Zulu course. People are still going to be like, oh, I've been away from my family and I got homesick. And you know, that first Zulu course, it's crazy that it's happening over Exodus. You lose more students after Exodus than you do anything else because they're homesick. They go home. They realize they don't have to get their balls kicked in every single day. Then they get back from Exodus and they completely lose focus. They get out of shape. They've just been eating and drinking like little goblins and not doing what they're supposed to do. And then that harsh reality of the cold Texas winter smacks them in the face when they get back down in January, and those dudes lose focus and they get out. So there's going to be attrition. And that first course is going to be, you're going to have to just throw that away because you got that Exodus really in the dead center of it. You know, that Zulu course starts in November. You've got November and then 2 weeks of December. So 6 weeks worth of time where you're training hard. And then they're like, all right, cool. See you in 2 weeks. And then everybody goes away for the holidays and comes back. And I think it's going to be a shit show. But that's the way the fiscal year works. It's not like they could, I mean, of course they could have avoided this by a longer planning process or something that they really looked at. And those questions had to be asked, like talking to these people that are all of our friends. I know those questions had to be asked in a room somewhere. I just don't know if they were validated.
Hopefully I'm working on my audio, guys. I'm working on it. Hopefully it's getting better every time I speak. The next one was the land-based selection. Is it something going to be similar to SFAS, running, rucking, team events, etc.?
Yeah, so this is like everybody is making that connection. Like, oh, this is exactly like SFAS. It's essentially, you know, MARSOC. Their selection is essentially the same length, right? It's like 3 to 5 weeks for both of them. I think it's going to look what our ground training looked like. I think it's going to look exactly like what we were doing before, just in a 3-week all land stuff. They're just going to take the pre-dive water portion out of the initial selection course, and it's going to look exactly like what we're doing. I think your grass and gorilla drills, I think you're about to see the hammer get dropped on that. And this is the other kind of like, it's a little bit of a nuanced thing. Like, I don't want to speak for the instructors down there. I do want to convey something. A lot of the rank and file instructors are freaking livid. Like, they are super ticked off. There's a lot of folks that are not tracking these changes. They may disagree. They may agree. I think they're going to bring the hammer in this 3-week selection course. If you're like, oh, no water, oh, this is going to be easy. I want to remind you, SFAS still fails out like 60% of the dudes that get in there. And those people have been training, running, rucking, and doing all those things. The land sucks. It's not as bad as the water. The old joke is that nobody quits on land. Everybody quits in the water. And that's a truism. But I think, they didn't model it after SFAS. There's not going to be a land nav test. You're going to get land nav in the Zulu course as it is now. There's not going to be, I think it's just going to, it's going to be a 3-week durability phase just focused on land. So get up for it. Like, I can't wait. One of the funny things that I've been seeing is people talk about, oh, how easy this 3-week land-based selection is. And I'm just like, yeah, I can't wait to talk to me in 3 months, dude. If you're still in the pipeline, we'll have a conversation about it. We'll see how easy it was, because we could turn the volume up on land. that's definitely a thing that the instructors are capable of doing. As far as, is it going to be just like SFAS? Like, man, think of everything that you could possibly do on land and it's all evaluated, right? Like, all of this is still an attributes-based selection model. The instructors still have the ability to go, hey man, you may have gotten to the end of this 3-week selection model, but I would say that there's going to be a healthy dose of like, no, I didn't see what I needed to see from you here. So we're not going to select you. Like, you're gone. So people just need to kind of internalize that in the head.
Also, remember, people quit the TAC P pipeline, and we're not as heavy in the water
every day, baby.
Right.
Yeah, it's not 100%. It's not 100% success rate over there, and they've got a land-based selection. And everything here, the thing that I've been talking to my boy about is that they're training every skill to the highest level. So there are some differences in skill levels, right? Like PJs, typically the PJU course and the CCS course are not same but different. The PJU course trains to a higher skill level, and I'm not aggrandizing PJs. Like I'm saying we're better. What I'm saying is there's different training requirements, and this is a really queepy thing from your CFETP, but there's performance-based and knowledge-based, right? 1, 2, 3, and 4, and then A, B, C, and D. And if those numbers, if the letters are capitalized, that means you have to have more knowledge than a lowercase a, right? Lowercase a is a baseline knowledge. Uppercase A is a little bit higher. These are all defined in your PKC, your proficiency code key inside of your CFETP. PJs typically would train higher at their apprentice courses than the combat controllers did, because the combat controllers were going to get that extra training when they went to CCS. To STTS. So a graduate of CCS and a graduate of PJU are not the same. They're not trained to the same level. PJU was built to put people to a unit and immediately get them to go deploy. Like, that was always the intent of PJU. That is not the intent of CCS. CCS was, we're going to get you all of your 3-level items, and then STTS is going to get you to those 5-level items, including JTAC and advanced employment and advanced skills training, and then you're ready to go to the unit and deploy. That's why STTS was added on to the combat control pipeline, and there's no equivalent for PJs because we already got that training. All that to say, the way that they're looking at stuff like the Zulu course and these things that are going to be trained the same, they're all taking it to the highest skill level, not the lowest. So if you're doing, grass and guerrilla drills, and there is no like line item for grass and guerrilla drills. I'm just using it as an example. But if PJs had a higher requirement than, say, TAC P, they didn't move the entire pipeline down to TAC P. They moved all of the other career fields up to the highest requirement. And that's what they're training for the entire new pipeline.
So there was a question about officer selection phase 2. I'm assuming that is not affected by this at all.
No change. The word that we're getting on officers is there's no change. They're going to go through phase 1, phase 2. Stowe and Crow are still going to be different. There was talk about putting them all in one career field and having one selection, and then moving them down to SWAS, all as like one big group. That didn't happen. I think there's supposed to be updates this week. That's one of the questions. It's kind of like a due out that we have right now. But as far as officers right now, it doesn't appear like there's going to be any change. You go to phase 1, you go to phase 2. If you're selected out of phase 2, you go to SWAS and then to Zulu, and then continue on with your pipeline as for ACT.
Any idea on the numbers for the class size for Zulu course?
No clue. Let me, let me pull this email up. I actually do have an email that has essentially a number on it. I will find it right now for you.
Well, while you're looking, I'm going to answer one about TAC P pipeline. No, dive school is not, as of right now, going to be a part of the TAC P pipeline. Like in my ultimate dreams, the TAC P pipeline just mirrors everyone else's, but that's just unrealistic because the preponderance of forces for TAC P is always going to be supporting the conventional mission, and it's just not something that we do. So you can go. There are TAC Ps who go to dive schools. Wes Bryant is a good example. He was on the podcast. But it's not something that is part of the TAC P pipeline.
Yeah. So, So some of the recommendations coming for the Zulu course. So it was the Zulu course is designed to accommodate the entire PGL of 1,460 students. So the initial word back from this in this planning document that I'm looking at is they wanted to execute no less than 7 courses a year beginning in FY26. No more than 80 training days, 16 weeks per course. The Zulu course must be executed with this level of frequency to balance a small enough cohort size. So they're looking anywhere between like 180 and 200 students.
Wow.
Maybe. Yeah. But again, like that depends on a whole bunch of other things. And this was a really early document that I'm looking at. Let me pull this up here. That was a really early planning. Yeah, that's what they're talking about in Lackland is 180 students to 200, depending on how many. And then, but that wasn't based off of like how many can we house, how many can we teach, whatever. That's based off of the PGL. That PGL, and I'm blanking on what the PGL stands for, but the PGL is a number that you need to produce every year in order to keep the career fields healthy. Like if we don't get this number, then there's going to be a delta, and that means the career field is shrinking, not growing. The PGL is a number that everything in AETC is based off of, and that's a projection. Maybe it's projected gains and losses. That's a projection of how many people are getting out, how many people aren't going to re-enlist, how many people are retiring, whatever. And it's a career field strength number. So essentially that PGL, you get the PGL from looking at the career field, and then you back that up and go, okay, well, we need to graduate X number of all of these career fields out of here. The PGL, as it was briefed in that slide and in that email, was 1460. So they were like, hey, in order to get this, we can do it in either 7 or 8 courses, and that's a class size. Now, how many they can actually teach, move, feed, house, all of that, that's still up in the air. Like that is a big do out and a big question because again, the logistics are going to drive this one.
There's some that are some of neat, like a question about pre-dive for controllers. If they don't get a reshot at it, is that because it's not a 3-level requirement for them, dive and pre-dive?
Yeah, totally. Sucks to suck, man. Mm-hmm. Like if you don't pass the course, you don't pass the course. So they're going to give you one shot at pre-dive, and because it's not a 3-level requirement, you don't need it to graduate the pipeline. They're going to give you that one shot, and then they're going to go, okay. Speaking to the division in the teams, I said this on the episode, but man, that's a you problem. Like you guys going into the team room and giving your friend shit because you didn't pass pre-dive, and then having some people feel elitist because they passed and other people didn't. Like, what a silly thing to fight about. Like I always remember when we were deployed, like, shift A would always hate shift B because shift B would never fill the water up at the end of their shift. And you'd come in and you wouldn't have cold water in the fridge. You'd have warm water that they hadn't filled yet, right? Dudes are always going to find something to bitch about. That's toxic in a team room. I mean, I wouldn't want to live in an environment where you had that. The game is what the game is. It's not like those guys don't want to go back. They might have just failed out. Now, if there's a dude floating around, and I've heard stories of this, like if there's a dude floating around that was like, I don't need pre-dive to graduate. I'll worry about pre-dive when I've got my beret on, and they don't try very hard at pre-dive or they pop on everything and they're just terrible teammates. I guess that's something different. But the bottom line there is that, yeah, it's not a pre-dive. It's not a 3-level requirement. So if it's not a 3-level requirement, the instructors can't do anything to you if it's not a 3-level requirement. Because there's the basis for instructors being like, hey, you better do this event. You better not quit. Like if you're quitting by action, like if you are not engaged in this event, I'm going to fail you out of here for quitting by action. That's tied to that 3-level requirement. The second the dive was taken out of it, all of the watercom stuff essentially just disappeared. It's a fugazi. It doesn't exist because there's no requirement to tie it to. And it's because they torpedoed the 3-level requirement along with dive school. That's what the dive memo was. It wasn't just taking away school. They took away the requirement for that thing to happen inside of the 3-level training architecture, which is the pipeline.
There's between Light Skin, Keith Sweat, and Glass ACL, those guys are both in the pipeline right now. And one is asking about CCS in August being canceled. I don't know if you have any essay on that.
If the apprentice course ain't happening right now, there is no more apprentice courses. Because they're loading everything up. And again, this is another one of those signals that I'm seeing that leads me to believe that this thing is an absolute go. Like, despite everybody's machinations to the otherwise, if you're not in I think the only apprentice course that's running right now is PJU started one in June. I'm not sure if TAC-P is finishing one up. but they were basically like, hey, we're not doing this. Like, there's going to be a clean break October 1st. That's when the new SWAS starts. We don't want another apprentice course going through at that time. So there is not going to be like the dudes down at Kirtland, I can tell you for sure, they know that they're not starting another apprentice course before that first course that goes through SWAS is ready to hit the new apprentice course.
Oh, shit.
Because they basically, and the reasoning behind this is that they like the apprentice courses are getting cut way down. I think there's like 14 to 16 weeks coming out of PJU because all of that stuff is being taught at Common Skills. Land nav shooting, tactics, weapons, all that stuff is coming out. So like the land nav, the weapons and tactics block is coming out of PJU. So like when you start taking those blocks out, like you're not going to train them again. You're already training to the highest level in the Zulu course, so you're not going to train them again. Like there's no such thing as PJ tactics. There's no such thing as combat controller tactics. Like they're all just tactics. So all that stuff is coming out of the apprentice course. Well, the apprentice course dudes need to do their course flow and need to get their instructional materials, and then they got to get like it's a Queepy Air Force thing. But if you're going to teach a new block of instruction, like if you're going to teach a different block at your school, you have to get certified in that course. Somebody has to watch you teach it, and then they have to, like the instructor supervisor has to sign you off, and then there has to be instructional materials, and you have to do all this other stuff. And that includes, sometimes when you would just move blocks around, like, because we would move blocks around all the time. We'd be like, what if we did medicine first? And then whatever. And then we were like, well, what if we did weapons first? Whatever. Those changes happen all the time inside of the pararescue apprentice course. You have to get that approved, and there's got to be a course flow. And then you have to look at running like a senior team and a junior team on top of one another, because if this block is taking up too much vehicles and this block doesn't have them, then you can't run those two blocks together. You got to switch it up. Or if you don't have enough instructors, you got to get instructors like cross-flowed in different blocks of instruction in order to make it happen at the same time. So basically what they said is like, hey, the apprentice courses are going to need time in order to get themselves together, and they're going to use that time from starting October 1st when the new pipeline goes live. So if you ain't in an apprentice course right now, there is no next apprentice course.
Hold on tight, right?
Yeah, and from Glass, like he's saying that the CCS in August is canceled. Yeah, no, that's, I would believe your MFM. Like, I do not think, and as a matter of fact, there was supposed to be a special warfare assessment and selection course that was supposed to start either in like August or September. I talked to my bro about that today. He was like, no, there ain't, homie. Like that is not happening. Like they are throwing everything at this October 1st start date.
I'm not sure if you want to address that one from LB about attrition.
See, passing 3 weeks, the instructor is not selecting. I mean, I can't can't possibly like forecast if they're going to be more discerning in the attributes-based assessment model that we got going on. The assumption in you're kind of like begging the question with the higher percentage of people passing, is there going to be? Like, there's no data to support that question. Like your presumption there is that more people are going to pass the 3 week selection. You don't have any data to make that call.
Mm-hmm.
They have no idea. Like we don't know if there's going to be timed rucks. Like we don't know how a land-based selection is going to affect musculoskeletal injuries, because everybody that's getting ready to get into the pipeline, you guys are brittle and you guys break way more than everybody else. Land-based selection and rucking breaks more people than anything else does. So now you're going to be pounding on your bodies, and you guys spent your entire lives, inside playing video games and being soft and shit. I'm kidding. But we have no idea what that output's going to look like. I wouldn't say that the selection rate is going to be higher or that attrition rate is going to be lower. And then I couldn't possibly construct a hypothetical where I'm saying that are the instructors going to purposely select less people? That can always happen. Again, like I've seen it in, CCS had this real problem. Well, the combat control pipeline for a long time had a real problem with gatekeeping, and they called it institutional drift, right? Well, what happened is all the controllers that were instructing in all of these different schools in the combat control pipeline, like ATC, CCS, they all went through the NDOC model. Well, then when they moved away from the NDOC model, the students that were coming through, they're like, oh, well, you guys haven't had it hard yet, so I'm going to give it to you hard. And then they would just start absolutely big dicking people at like ATC. and ATC became the new selection course. And then the guys at CCS were like, well, these guys haven't had it hard yet. Like ATC is not hard. You're in class. There's only so much time. So we're going to introduce what we call our stress inoculation phase. And we're gonna have sit stress inoculation training, and that's going to be the selection course so that you pass my standard. And each school did this. And combat control students were just getting crushed. And then finally, when somebody from the outside came to the inside and looked around at stuff like at Keesler and looked around at like CCS, everybody was like, bro, what are you doing? They've already been selected. So institutional drift happens. I couldn't possibly say that, especially not nefarious. I can't say that, the instructors down at JBSA are going to have a coup and they're like, nope, we're not going to select as many people now. Now we're going to have a lot more non-selects. Like there's a lot of pressure from this. The wing is always involved in these conversations. The wing and the group, they're always looking over the instructor's shoulder, sometimes too much. So to say that they're going to select less people out, there's no way that I could give an answer on that. I will say that it's your assumption that there's a higher percentage that's going to go through. Like, and I know you said with the possibility, but I don't know if that's a valid possibility. It might be. Maybe this was the one thing. Maybe every single person in this chat could have easily made it through to Army SF, but it was the Water and Air Force that was selecting people out. But you can't say that. Like that's kind of a wacky thing to say. So.
There's a question of how do you teach 200 people land nav and tactics? You do it like SEER guys do and break them out into different teams.
Yeah, 5 different flights of 30 or 40 people.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the same way that you teach land nav, there's an instructor ratio. The big thing there is going to be like training ranges and shit. Like it's hard to land nav in Texas.
Oof.
No, it's not. Everything's flat. Everything's just out there. Like the ranges on Bullis and all these other things. Like, again, the logistics are going to drive that there. The question isn't how do you teach 200 people? That's easy. I can tell you with unlimited resources how I do that. Like, oh yeah, you just need, a training range that we have 24-hour access to, and we can schedule a day out. And we can just get on whenever we want. We can run this stuff back to back to back to back if we wanted to. We put dudes on wacky schedules, and one team shows up at 8, the other team shows up at noon, the other team shows up at 4, the other team shows up at 7, and then we have a night flip where we do this other thing, and poof, Bob's your uncle. But there's so many assumptions built in there. You don't own Bullis training range, all of it. You don't schedule that thing. Usually those ranges have to be scheduled like 90 days out. And there's multiple people that are competing. Like Security Forces is still up at Bullis, if I remember correctly, and that's the largest career field in the United States Air Force. So like those things are going to be super interesting.
We have a few questions that are not necessarily, I guess they're kind of tied, but one is about combining all of the officer components to Stowe Crow and TACPO Phase 2 together. I don't know if I've heard anything about that. Have you?
Yeah, I mean, this thing that's been the word since they started putting crows at STSs way back in the day. They're like, listen, if a crow leads at an STS, then why do we have a special tactics officer and a combat rescue officer? Why don't we just combine the officer career field into a 19Z career field, no shred outs, and they're just a special warfare officer? And then they go lead, and they have their other, they've got their other shred outs essentially. So personnel recovery, precision strike, global access, call it good. But they get training in essentially all of these things. And if you're going to go to an STS and you're going to go to a team that does global access and you're a special warfare officer, like a generalized category, we're going to get you that training so you can go lead those dudes. That's been on the table for a long time. The pararescue community is like, nah, dog. Like the PJ community, like no other, was super against it, and for good reason. They've got a guard mission, they've got a stateside mission, they've got all these other things. Like you can't just look at the Alaska unit that has crows that have been doing personnel recovery at the highest pace of any unit in the history of the world. I mean, they're getting 3 to 5 rescues a week during rescue season, and even in their off time, they're still doing these insanely complicated rescue missions. You need a specialist. You can't have just a generalized officer community that you're just going to throw in there because they've got Title 32 stateside missions. They work across 5 different commands. Pros work in ACC as well, where they're only doing personnel recovery. Stows still haven't figured out how to cross the barrier. Like pros flow in between AFSOC, ACC, AETC, Guard Reserve, no problem. The Stows don't do that. The Stows only work in AFSOC, and then if they leave the command, it's for the weapons school or it's for one of these other one-off positions. TAC pos go and they do like legislative liaison stuff that's completely separate from the career field. They don't actually do their job in any other command other than AFSOC. So the PJs were like, "No, dog, you can't combine all of our dudes. Like, we'll still get dudes to go over to AFSOC. Like, there's crows working at every single STS now." Cool. But yeah, but that conversation's been going on for so long. Like the second the crows started going over, when they first, I want to say the first crow worked over the 2-3 STS. Like that was one of the first places that crows actually went and worked because it was the biggest one. That was when that conversation started. That was years ago. And sometimes it'll get re-energized. Why aren't we combining it all into one? We could just teach everybody a baseline of all this stuff, and you'd have an officer that could lead all the way across. I've had TAC-P officers that work at STTS or at STSs that did, some form or function over there. I was a PJ that led a mixed group of AFSCs as a troop chief and then as the op soup up at the 2-2. So I get it. Like, I understand how you want to create efficiencies there, but that officer conversation has been going for a long time.
Well, and I think it lends itself from the enlisted career fields. They're so diverse. Like there's some crossover, like CCTs. Yeah, they have JTAC, but like, TAC-Ps, the CCT can't do the conventional JTAC mission because they just haven't been exposed to it and they haven't been trained for it. Right. There's cross competencies, but like you need that dedicated space. Like I think a crow could lead an ASOS and do a really good job. Yeah, but would it be the same as a TAC-PO? I don't think so.
Yeah, there's always going to be that point of specialization. You know what I'm saying? Like crows have done a fine job over working on the AFSOC side. I think stows would probably do a fine job leading at a rescue squadron, right? But there's always going to be those deficiencies. They just don't inherently understand. Being a leader, and especially being an officer at those higher levels, man, you're just an officer. These leaders that are, wing commanders, it doesn't matter that Jose Cabrera is a crow leading the wing down at Davis Monthan. He's just a good leader. And those people do exist. But if you're completely, especially when you start talking about like putting a stow at a rescue unit, that would break their brains. Like those two things are just completely different animals. Like the way that they plan, the way that they operate, the way that ACC works. Like I always joke that crows, I had a crow, like my good friend, Captain Old Vance, who I just saw out here in Vegas not too long ago. Like he was my officer over in AFSOC, and it was funny because I knew him when he was a super young student. Like when he was a crow cone going through, I was at Vegas. I was the one troop chief out of Vegas, and he was like a crow cone going through the pipeline for that 2 years. So I knew him from a long time ago. But it was funny because after like 6 months, he kind of just pulled me aside at the ST, and he was like, "Bro, what is going on here?" And I was like, "Yeah, it's different, right?" And he did great because he's a good leader and he's a good man, right? But I'm telling you, like, it's just different. Like if you just adapted to that world as opposed to being born in it like Bane, like it's jarring, and you got to be able to orient to that stuff really, really quickly. So yeah, there's deficiencies there.
Well, I think it'd be within ACC. It's probably different. Like the TAC-P guys going over the rescue squadron, I'm sure it's completely different than what it is at the ASOS.
Oh yeah. And it won't be too long until the TAC-P guys, like they just started kind of putting people, no kidding, TAC-Ps over at rescue units. It won't be too long. There's going to be a troop chief that pops up somewhere. Some hard charging TAC-P dude that's a master sergeant is going to be able to take an ACC troop and do just fine. But the guys that do just fine are the guys that immediately assimilate to the process and they lean on their team leaders. They're like, "Hey guys, what the fuck is this thing?" And the guys are like, "Oh yeah, it's just the way ACC does it." That's what I used to do. I'd go to my controllers, especially like, my NCOs, my senior tech sergeants. I'd go to them and I'd be like, "Guys, you got to explain this one to me. This doesn't make any sense. Why are we doing it?" They're like, "Oh yeah, it's just a SOCOM thing. You got to do it." And I'm like, "Oh, okay, cool." Like, but that's, I'm not saying I'm the world's best leader, but I'm saying I knew what I didn't know, and I was completely willing to reach out. Officers sometimes don't care what they don't know, and they think they know everything. Their ignorance breeds arrogance, because if you don't know what you don't know, then you think you know everything. And then that's where folks get into trouble. And you see it on both sides of the fence there. That's more of a different officers than it is on a specific career field.
Hey, Rich, I see your question about the TAC-P schoolhouse. Yeah, so I think the land nav is probably going to go away for Block 2. Tactics as well. But I think there's still going to be some things that are probably not taught at the Zulu course that are required for the TAC-P schoolhouse. Things like HF comms. Like, I just don't see that being taught to everybody. It's one of those things. There's going to still be like a comms block, right? Because you may learn your 117 and your inter team radios in the Zulu course, but we do so much more, right? And probably the same thing with
they're going to teach T-Triple-C down in the Zulu course. You're going to have a med block, like for people that need it, but it's not like the PJs aren't going to have a med block down at PJU. Like that med block is not going anywhere. So those advanced skills that you have because of your specific capabilities inside of your AFSE, those are going to exist later. That's what makes you attack P, is having those exquisite comm solutions. So that will still exist.
And I see that there is an opportunity, and I don't know, this is just me thinking about it logically. The Air Force doesn't always work this way, but there is a possibility there may be a chance to get a little bit more detailed into some of the exquisite training that is unique to each of the 4 career fields. So you may get a little bit more time to dive into your 1972 close air support request form, right? And how that works in tax ags and those kinds of things. So there's a possibility for that could be a thing too.
Yeah, for sure.
Let's see here. A lot of guys started popping up on here. Light Skin Keith Sweat, I think that's one of our favorite names. The last combat dive class had quite a few beret wearers. They said that you can't get onto a team without a bubble. Can you confirm? And if this is the case, are they pumping out operators to teams without fully qualified beret wearers? Wouldn't even make the pipeline shorter because you still have to go back and do it.
Okay, so you can totally you can 100% get assigned to a unit without having dive school, because it's not a 3-level requirement. It's a 5-level requirement. But the way that ST is fixing this problem, like when you get to your unit, they are prioritizing dive school essentially right away. They're like, let's get you through pre-dive and then let's get you to dive school, because the longer that you have from the pipeline, the harder it is to get through dive school. That's just a truism. Special forces dudes, you see them going through, I can tell you the pain, because I used to go over and help with their pre-dive course up at JBLM, at Soldiers Fieldhouse. They'd have these 40-year-old dudes, 35-year-old dudes that are just going to a dive team and need to go to dive school. And they were sucking. Imagine having that much time in between, all this other stuff. So it's not a question of can you get to a team. Yeah, you can 100% get assigned there, and people are going to. There's going to be a shit ton of people that get out of the Zulu course, go through pre-dive. They're a combat controller. They didn't pass pre-dive for whatever reason. They didn't get to go to dive school in the pipeline. And then they show up to their unit at the end of 12 months, because that's how long this new pipeline is supposed to be. They show up to that unit. They don't have a dive bubble. Well, I can tell you every single ST unit right now is the first thing that you're doing if you show up without dive is you're going to dive school. We're going to put you through pre-dive, and then you're getting your dive school slot, and until it's do not pass go, do not collect $200. You ain't getting your JTAC before you go to dive school. You were getting dive school first so that you could be a fully qualified combat controller. I can confirm that as far as don't go to a team, you can show up to your unit and they'll be like, yeah, we're not putting you on a team, but that's a unit level decision. And it makes sense. You want guys to get that qualification. So maybe you don't go to an individual team or an individual troop inside of that unit, but it's the way that they're prioritizing. It's the way that they're prioritizing dive school. There's nothing to stop any commander at any one of the ST units to go, hey, you don't have your dive bubble, but you're going to go to, 2 troop, and you're going to go start working. You're going to go start going on training events. And then when we tell you to, you're going to go to dive school. As soon as you have one, maybe there's not a slot. So it's not a hard and fast rule. It's just the way the commanders are fixing the problem that they've been given, which is no dive in the pipeline.
Let's see here. I'm not seeing it. Yeah, Survivalist is right. Yeah, if you're a 3-level, you can deploy. I did it. I was not 6 months out of the schoolhouse before we went to Iraq, so that happens.
Oh, yeah. No, PJs deploy 3 levels all the time. There's PJs, there are 3 levels that are deployed right now. You don't need that much. You need a 3-level, and usually your unit has what's called MQT, or mission qualification training. You don't need to be a 5-level to go deploy. PJs have been doing it since the beginning of time. That's how the PJ Corps was set up. That's what they briefed to the teams at the rescue units. Is hey, a dude fresh out of the pipeline can 100% go there as long as he gets that MQT. And a couple of years ago, the career field manager for pararescue cut MQT way down. it used to be this huge suite of stuff. It was like the joke was when you got on the green team, you were going to redo your pipeline just in order to be, ready to go. Like you just did it. And you're going to go through like this 4-month green team where you do everything over again to get qualified. And that was based off of MQT. Because before that, I'm blanking on what they used to call you. There's a code for it, right? So when you got your actual qualification, like you're a deployable thing, they had a different identifier for you. So when you were in IQT, your initial qualification training, there was a specific code that was attached to you. And until you got that stuff done out of IQT, initial qualification training, it was MQ. You were mission qualified when you get out of there. And then you were a mission qualified pararescue, which meant you could do all the tasks as an apprentice. That happens when you're at 3 level. That wasn't like 5 level stuff. You would get your 5 level items knocked out, but it'd be nowhere close. Like there's so many 5 level items for PJs, you'd be like a fourth of the way done, but you would be able to go deploy. And especially in talking like, DM went through, I got a podcast, baby. DM went through this thing. Thanks, Bill. DM went through this thing they called the nightmare years. And those dudes were deploying like crazy. Hi, buddy. Hi, buddy. Hi, podcast, baby. I love you too. But they had this crazy thing where they would go, like, they would split these deployments, and they called it the nightmare years because dudes had 0 downtime. They were getting like 6 deployments in 2.5 years because they would just get off a deployment and then they'd be like, hey, we have a spot filled for the, this next deployment. They'd go on a weird like 2-month hack rotation, come home, spend a month and a half and go on a 4-month rotation, come home, spend 2.5 months, go back out on another 2-month rotation. They would do that for like 2 years straight. But all you need to be is mission qualified, and that's it.
So this is probably better just specifically for you to answer as a former instructor. With the, a lot of the skills in the Zulu course were normally taught when cones were more acclimated to the pipeline in the military. What challenges do you see with teaching more advanced skills near the beginning of the pipeline?
Well, I mean, brain dump is the big one. Like Trent made the joke that you're not going to remember shit from the Zulu course. You're in student mode, especially early in the pipeline. Like you're just not ready to take in that adult learning, right? It is going to be a familiarization, and like tactics is not advanced. Like this is not advanced training, because again, every single 11 Bravo with a high school degree and high levels of autism in the freaking Army can figure out tactics. It's formations and hand signals and how do you react to threats, right? Like it's not advanced training by any means of it. That's always the funny thing where guys are, when they would get to our teams, they'd be like, oh man, like what kind of advanced stuff do you guys do? We're like, we're going to go walk battle drill 4 dry out here. And they're like, what? What do you mean like battle drill 4? I'm like, oh, you don't know battle drill 4? This is the basic shit. CQB is in the Army Ranger handbook. That shit is not advanced. You take 4 guys, you clear a room, then you walk out of it and you go do the next one. And sometimes hallways and stairwells get weird, right? Now you can make it as complicated as you want, but it's really not an advanced tactic. Every single 11 Bravo goes through their advanced skills training and SUT and gets this stuff. I think early in the pipeline, it's because you're just looking through a soda straw. Like you were focused on getting the lunch. Sometimes you're just not mentally engaged enough to take in information and really internalize and apply it. Remember we were talking about those proficiency code keys? Like sometimes you're not up to the performance level of a 3 and a large A. Like a large A means you can define almost all of the tasks like to a 70% standard. You don't need somebody to help you. You can like line that out, and that's not correct. But like if I'm asking you to do something to a big 3 little C, you should be able to do everything with my help. Like maybe ask me one question about it. Like you should be able to run a tactical exercise and your tactics should be good, right? That's application. That's using knowledge and applying it and internalizing it. We'll have to see how much students remember and how much they know, because you are doing it at the beginning of the pipeline. You get right out of a 3-week kick in the dick selection course, you get selected or you don't, and you're hopping right into the Zulu course. Like that's a big question, is how are they going to package that information and how much are the students going to retain? Like it's all good that they could pass a class, but the biggest one there is like, okay, man, how much do you remember? Like we all have classes that we go and we just brain dump and you don't remember a thing about it afterwards. That's probably the biggest risk there, is that you're taking these students that are hella new, I mean, they're like learning in the military is completely different.
Mm-hmm.
You can have whatever college is behind you. You can have whatever you want, but in that 16 weeks, 80 training days worth of Zulu course, you're going to learn by a fire hose, just an absolute fire hose. So,
Are you guys going to talk about, or are any of these changes going to affect what's going to happen for your operator training summit in October?
I mean, not really. Like we're not recommending anybody stop swimming. Like we're going to talk about, how probably like injury prevention stuff. And
Yes, keep swimming, everybody. I think that's going to be one of the biggest things here. Is you should definitely keep swimming because it's eventually going to come. If especially if you're going to be in one of those other three gigs, that's one that you need to continue to do because it's going to come up, right?
acclimated pipeline. Are there any more videos coming in SR or any new changes? Yeah, man. I mean, it's not. SR is SR. I mean, you're going to go through the exact same pipeline. The SR apprentice course is going to change a little bit because they're going to teach a lot of that stuff at Common Skills. We'll have to see exactly what goes on with SR, but there are no like individual, other than the apprentice courses kind of like cutting down a little bit. There's no real changes for the career fields themselves or the capabilities that they have. It's essentially just like, hey man, join right with apprentice requirement. Nope, we're good there. Are these changes going to affect the material covered in the OTS for October? I think we just answered that one. It's nope. Unfortunately, I will not be there. You know what's funny about the OTS? We had been shopping dates around and we were looking for a place to have it. And the dates came out, like the October dates, and I was like, oh yeah, 21st, I'm not doing anything at that time. And then I took like 2 seconds of my time. I have a baby that's due, and we have a scheduled C-section, and that scheduled C-section is on October 22nd. So I was like, hey guys, turns out I can't make the 26th because I'll have a 4-day-old baby. So, not bad. So fun one there. The new pre-dive course is supposed to be 8 weeks. Is the intent to have all water content was in SWAS to now have in its own isolated course? Great question. SWAS was your pre-dive course. SWAS is pre-dive. That's what it is. Like they called like your assessment and selection, like you got assessed and selected, and then you went to pre-dive. INDOC was a huge pre-dive course. The water that they put into the special warfare assessment and selection course before pre-dive was just a derivative of the 3-level requirement for dive school. That's where all those things came from. So it is supposed to be 8 weeks. Is the intent to have all water content was in SWAS, now to have in its own isolated course? Yes. It just won't involve the two at once. Pre-dive will never be 8 weeks. Ooh, sorry, bud. Here, I can tell you exactly how long pre-dive is going to be. Survivalist. Because there's going to be a ramp in Zulu up to pre-dive. Look at these text messages here. Sorry, I just got to scroll through this conversation with my boy.
The SEER question, I think, is. Oh, go ahead.
Pre-dive was given 8 or 9 weeks total. Currently, they have 11. Like that is it. I'm telling you from the guy. I promise, survivalist. It is. That's how much they have blocked for it. There's going to be a ramp at the end of the Zulu course. So you're going to have a couple of, and I don't know how far they're going to back this up at the end of the Zulu course, but the intent is at the end of the Zulu course, they're going to introduce folks to water. If you're a TAC B guy, you're going to do your surface swimming. Anybody with the potential to go to pre-dive and dive, so CCT, SR, PJ, Stowe, Crow, they're going to go through their pre-dive course. They were slated 8 weeks maybe, or 9 weeks maybe, but it's one of those two numbers. So there you go. I guess we could bet on it, but.
So that we've got some more questions about SEER, and it's looking like it's still going to be staying up at Spokane, right?
Yeah, because SEER was basically they were asking SEER if they could do their blocks of instruction to include all the stuff that we can't talk about in a very short timeline inside of that Zulu course, and SEER was like, no. So SEER was like, no, we're not doing that, dog. So the SEER career field leadership was like, no, we absolutely cannot send SEER instructors down there to teach survival in that amount of time. Like, and I don't know what amount of time they were asked to do it, how many training days or whatever else, but SEER basically was like, nah, dog. So for right now, yeah, SEER, you're still going to go TDY to SEER. Now, I don't know if they're going to include that in the Zulu course and you'll go TDY, and if they're just calling out like a block of training inside of there, or if they're going to do the Zulu course, and then once you hit your shred outs, like after the Zulu course, everybody has their job. You go to pre-dive and then dive, and then after dive school, basically everybody starts hitting their shred outs, right? Like their road to their apprentice course. So airborne, free fall, dunker training, all that other stuff. I don't know if they're just going to keep SEER as an additional, 17 days of training in there prior to you getting to your apprentice course, or how they're going to do it. But I'll tell you, SEER straight did not. They were like, wait, you want us to do it how long? No. And they just straight said no.
Yeah, that block of SEER is not. You talk about a fire hose, right? There's so much information that you were learning in that 13 days that you have, 17-day training. It's so you couldn't do it in less. I just couldn't see it.
Yeah. Well, the problem with that too is like SEER is a DoD mandated course. Mm-hmm. Like SEER C is exactly the same across all services. So is B, so is A, and it's actually a federal, like, to change the like SEER stuff or to do SEER stuff, you need like God to approve you doing that. We tried to do some SEER stuff at Kirtland, and one of our SEER guys was like, "Hey, I'd love to do this training with you guys. It'd be tight. We just can't do it." And you need like a 4-star approval. You need like a GS 15 step 3 SRS, dude. He was like, this stuff is so tightly controlled. Like, there was just no way. And I think that was probably one of the big reasons that SEER said no, maybe just to be contrarian. But they were like, no, absolutely not. Like, you can't get it approved in this time. Like, we'd have to teach like 24 hours a day in order for us to do this. Like, because you still need the same training time, the same training blocks, the same output, the same tests, the same lessons, the same everything, because that's actually mandated throughout the entirety of DoD.
Pre-dive standards, are those going to be remain unchanged?
I would assume so. I don't think anything about pre-dive is going to change. I imagine, and again, like STTS really, it's probably going to be a copy paste of the STTS program, if I had to guess, because STTS's program was condensed and it was a specific pre-dive course that they vetted for a long time. Like, they've actually got a pretty good success rate out of STTS teaching their pre-dive course. So I would imagine it's a copy paste of the STTS program, and that's what they're going to teach down at pre-dive, or they'll just keep. I assume that the Special Warfare Assessment Selection and the STTS pre-dives were almost mirror images of one another. I would assume that those are going to be the same and not change.
Any info on when the candidate fitness test will enter the conversation again?
No clue, but it's okay because they don't know either. As far as we're talking like objective standards and gates, like especially the old career field dudes, those guys are super amped up about having an objective gate. That was one of the problems with the new pipeline. That's why they added the CFT in to the legacy model, which is the change from NDOC to Special Warfare Assessment Selection. That CFT was added because it's an objective physical standard. So durability, CFT. The CFT isn't going anywhere. I just don't know where they're going to put it inside of the Zulu course. You're still going to, I guarantee you still take an IFT day one. Like IFT day one, there's no way that they get rid of IFT day one. You're going to take the IFT the first day that you get down there, and that's going to include swimming. So you're going to get down there and take the IFT. There's no changes to the IFT. Nobody's talking about changing the IFT for anything. Take that IFT first day. I don't know where they're going to put the CFT inside of the Zulu course. I don't know if they're going to change the standards, like not the standards as in the exercises or the test, but the numbers that you have to hit, because you have way longer. Like if they put that 20, like there's an algorithm for what they should expect for times of training. If that Zulu course is 16 weeks long, it's 80 training days, right? There's probably some coach there that's like, well, these numbers that we had from before, you can bump those numbers up a little bit. Like they should be at a much higher standard, just because they've had more training time, more PT time, or whatever else. I don't know if they're going to move those lines, but I assume somebody's probably asking the question somewhere. So it's going to be there. They just don't have any idea right now where they're going to put it.
How about any talk about moving airborne and free fall in-house?
No.
That's what I thought.
The Air Force has tried multiple times to get a free fall course. And the last time they tried, they failed miserably, and we wasted millions of dollars on it. And then we just stuck with the Army and the Navy.
Yeah.
Like they've tried to get our own stuff. Like even getting jump master courses. So CCS runs a static line jump master course, and the PJs out of the 68th, which is down in Davis Monthan, they run a free fall jump master course. To get those approved and to keep those running, the Army just big dicks you all the freaking time. There's absolutely no way that the Air Force gets an airborne course. Absolutely not. Static line round, gross. And even to get those jump master courses, it's bad. So to stand up an entire free fall course for the Air Force, they tried, they failed. We don't have the manning. How many PJs are you going to pull from a career field that's already critically manned and go be free fall instructor? Or you're going to pay premium and you're going to contract that out. And then you got to have airplanes and blade hours and fuel and a place to do it and ranges. And then it's like a 2-year process to get that shit vetted. I think you need to run like 4 courses in order to get it vetted through all of those things. And that's what the Army over your shoulder every single day. And if you misspeak like one time or if something wacky happens, you're out of luck. So do I think that's going to happen? I mean, wackier things have happened, right? I never thought they would take dive school out either. But if I was betting right now, because I am a betting man, there's no way that Air Force gets their own airborne and free fall.
All right, y'all. Let's be respectful of Aaron's time. If you've got, let's put any last, fires that you've got going in, any questions that you have on the potential changes to the pipeline. See some people chatting.
Hilarious from Glass, which is wild because the Air Force can turn airborne into a 5-day course. Yeah, you're right.
Mm-hmm.
Airborne is a 5-day course packed into 3 weeks of time.
And the worst part about it is shuffling on your knees.
Everything. Standing on the wires for no reason for 20 hours of your life every week. It's the stupidest course on the face of the planet. The Army can teach any truck to fall out of a plane in a static line parachute. It's not hard to do. It is so stupid. And the employment capability, like airborne employment, the only reason that we would ever even consider a static line round chute or even a static line somewhat square chute that they're using now, the T-11, the only reason you would do that is because your ceiling was so low that you couldn't do a static line square. Like that is it. Like there's like out in the ocean, like if ceilings were at like 700 or 800 feet, you absolutely had to jump to something. You would put guys out on static line rounds because you can deploy. If you just fly the aircraft faster, you can deploy from a little bit of a lower altitude and put guys pretty much right on target. That's the only everything else, you're jumping a steerable canopy. Like you're not jumping static line round.
Yeah, my dream is always to have every TAC-P be free fall. I know it'll never happen, but that's always my dream. But the reason we do so much static line is because that's what Joseph uses, right?
Right.
And let me tell you what, until you've run across a canopy because they steal your air, don't come talk to me.
Right.
That was
yeah.
I'd rather get shot
now,
at.
Like, none of the rescue units are even jumping free fall. They're like, why would I jump free fall on a delay? I'm just going to jump static line square, have my stack set up right away, and we're good.
Yeah.
Like they're not even playing. It's just like the Marines. The Marines never played around with free fall. They went to MC6 static line square right away. Like that's why the MC6 was essentially made as a changeable chute that you could just jump static line square, because it's way easier than dudes jumping out, getting unstable on equipment, where you just jump out, you have a singular chute deployment from a static line square, poof, you have a steerable canopy, Bob's your uncle, you go on with life.
All right. Well, it looks like there's nothing else there, Aaron. You got any parting shots?
Man, listen, I know this is a big deal. Like, I feel some type of way about it too. Like, I've been fielding phone calls and talking to people. Everybody has big feelings about this. Like, one of my boys hit me up, was like, man, the great beret giveaway starting in October and all this other stuff. So first of all, I reject that. You guys that are training for the pipeline, I respect you guys. You guys have been crushing yourself forever. I would never say that you're less of a person because you went through a different course. That's just dumb boomer shit to say. Like the 80s PJs that said the Indoc was harder when they went through it. I'm like, bitch, what does Afghanistan smell like? You don't know. You didn't do shit. You know what I mean? Like, don't play that game. And then from your side of it, guys, if this change is like shaking your desire to serve in the Air Force, then just don't go. Just stay out of everybody else's way. Things are going to change a million times when you're in. Things are going to, like, the amount of changes that I went through just in my career. I changed uniforms 3 times. Like, what are we talking about? It does not matter. Like, the headgear color you're wearing doesn't matter. The things that you're asked to do or call yourselves, or the way that you speak to people, like, none of that shit matters, man. Like, yeah, this pipeline is a big deal, but if you're hard as woodpecker lips and you want to go be a special operator, then take this one on the chin and go, well, freaking sucks. The pipeline is a little bit different now. We're going to do things at different stages, but I'm still going to go crush the pipeline. Don't stop training water. You should be like, oh, tight. I get to go through this 3-week selection, and then your goal should be, when I get to the pool, I'm going to blow the instructors out of the water. Like, I'm going to smoke pre-dive. If you're a combat controller, an SR guy, a stow, somebody that doesn't have dive school guaranteed, your goal should be to be so good in the water that you get that dive school slot out of pre-dive. Do not be denied. And then you don't have to fuck around with that at your first unit. You don't have to worry if you're going to a team or not. You just go there and you're like, no, dog, crush it. Got a dive bubble. Let's go on with business. Let's go deploy. Because that's what you're in this for. So I get it. There's a lot of drama. Like, HAF and 2AF really fumbled the bag here, especially on their messaging. Like, they did a terrible job of putting this out there. But that's why we're here. Like, we're here to make sure that you guys, we're going to leverage every relationship we have. We reached out to everybody that we know to talk to. We're getting great feedback. We'll get you guys all the information, but then it's up to you. And, you know, your morale doesn't matter. I don't care how excited you are to go do it. I'm not excited to go to the gym every morning, but I still go to the gym because I don't want to be a piece of shit. So I don't really care how you feel about this. Just, if you want to go do it, go do it. If you don't want to go do it, then just quit now. Like, get out of everybody else's way and stop bitching about it. I think that's it.
Yeah. Just think, y'all, you're kind of like we were back in the day when we didn't know shit. Like, we had a trifold and a hope. That was it. You're there. Just fucking go and control what you can control and move on.
Yeah. I didn't even know what the pipeline was, dude. I had no clue. I was just like, oh, this sounds cool. I'm going to go fight. It's like, somebody attacked America in 2001. Let's go fight. I was an idiot. And that's probably why I didn't make it the first time. And then the second time I went back, I knew a little bit more, but I just knew that it sucked. I had no idea what the pipeline was. I just knew a little bit about INDOC. So, listen, you guys can do it. Some stuff matters. Some stuff doesn't matter. Your IFT matters. How good you are in the pool matters. Your 9 attributes of soft that we're looking for matters. Are you a shitty teammate? That matters. The order in which you do all these skills does not matter at all. Like, just go crush it.
All right. Well, thanks again, Aaron. This is awesome. It's always good to have you on, man.
Yeah. Slimy Foot Job. What an absolutely unhinged name. Yes, I was a PJ.
All right. All right, guys.
All right.
Thanks. Peace.
Later, y'all.